Cities are built from sand. Buildings, infrastructure, technology, and glass. Human civilization relies on this material, but now we are running out of sand in the Anthropocene. In October 2017, at the port in Tamil Nadu, India, the first cargo of foreign sand arrived from Malaysia with a quantity of 55,000 tons. The supplier remains unknown. According to the Malaysian Natural Resources and Environment Minister, no permits were issued by the government to sell sand to India, while the Indian politicians happily granted permission for the import. It raised hopes among project developers in India to overcome the shortage of domestic river sand. Despite clearly defined borders of sovereignty, natural resources are not bound by political constraints. The trade of sand between countries across the globe creates a flow of capital and resource. New markets have emerged and natural sand flow has been interrupted. Sand as a material has entered the escalated state of flow. We are a society built on sand. The extraction of silica from sand creates the material glass for telescope and microscope to be realized, allowing the Renaissance age to magnify, to inquire, and to understand. Over the course of many years of erosion, rock and other organic matters are broken down. Then, it flows, cycles, and infiltrates at different scales, from the microscopic to the planetary. Taking its abundance for granted, we voraciously consume it to feed our societies, economies, and appetites. It is the very material upon which the foundations of our civilizations are built. Now, these foundations are crumbling. In a rapidly urbanizing world, where 2/3 of the global population will be living in cities by 2050, the impact of this imminent crisis will be felt. Under the effects of climate change and without careful management of material, sand is scarce.
In this age of climate emergency, we fail to quantify the amount of anthropogenic sand usage. An analysis of natural sand flow reveals that when it is interrupted due to human activities, the usage of anthropogenic sand generates conflicts and detrimental environmental repercussions. Sand is the second most traded commodity in the world after fresh water. Far-flung communities are now linked and resources are shared amongst nations in this era of globalization. Due to the escalated flow, sand has lost its form in the Anthropocene. It no longer exists as a whole, but rather is dismembered and dispersed, locked away in new bodies. It is the scarcity of sand that creates a new system of economy where the value of sand needs to be redefined.
A man leaves his home in Uttar Pradesh, traveling 1,300 kilometers to Thani Creek. He does this migration every 3 months to become a sand catcher. In the dead of the night, a boat bobs gently, rocked by the murky waters. It carries a crew of 6 men, including 2 divers and pullers. The man dives down to fill a metal bucket with sand. He repeats this dive 200 times a day, 12 meters down to the bottom of the riverbed. Each bucket only holds 30 kilograms of sand, but in a month, one boat can retrieve 1,540 tons of sand. As a collective body, the 70,000 sand catchers remove 308,000 tons of sand in a month, enough to cause the riverbed to drop by 6 meters over the past decade. As the river becomes deeper and deeper, the dredging works also becomes more difficult. Soon, the riverbed will be too deep for humans to reach and acquire sand. The divers earn $16 and the pullers earn $8 a day, far more than the average daily wage in India of $3.50. Each day, 200 boats conduct sand dredging works on the river. This manual dredging industry generates an economic value of around $300,000 every month, while environmental consequences and labor working conditions are neglected.
Sand flow is a relational network. Evaluating anthropogenic sand is about measuring its impact within social, economic, and environmental systems. The formula is about weighing the importance of different categories, thus having a more holistic definition about the value of sand in this age of climate emergency. Commodifying the metrics for calculating the consequential cost of sand is the new way of measuring sand flow. The Sentinel Protocol ensures state parties commit to reducing the consequential cost. The protocol is based on the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. It acknowledges that individual countries use sand to differing capacities owing to economic development. Under its implementation, one of the objectives is to introduce ethical labour conditions, increasing wage and insurance for the workers and allowing application of better safety measures will effectively reduce the consequential cost of sand. Working with the UNEP, the Sentinel program calculates and monitors sand flow, providing access to corporations and governments for optimizing and finding a balanced anthropogenic sand usage.
It is so decided. With approximately 200 countries in the room, it is not easy to find agreement on a deal so specific and so technical. But in these circumstances, every single step forward is a big achievement.
Another industry where sand plays a crucial role is technology. Silica is extracted from sand to make semiconductors and microchips found in phones, computers, and other electronic devices. Spruce pine produces the purest quartz on Earth due to its unique geological formation 380 million years ago. The subduction of the African plate under the North American plate created friction and intense heat. Pegmatites forced into the Earth's crust crystallize. Quartzite with high purity of silicon is mined and termed as silica sand, which is a crucial material for the technology industry. After going through 3 stages of chemical purification, silicon with impurities smaller than 1 part per billion is achieved. The economic value increases in proportion to the amount of energy used at each stage. This material is then used to produce semiconductor wafers for technology. The semiconductor wafer costs 72,000% more per cubic meter than quartzite. The energy required to make 95 grams of semiconductor-grade silicon from 1 kilogram of silica sand can support an average household in the UK for 7 months.
Because of the full potential material being used, the high value added leads to a low consequential cost of sand. However, the amount of energy consumed in the production of semiconductor wafers results in a huge amount of CO2 emissions, which adds to the consequential cost, balancing out the eventual final cost. Thus, the goal for corporations is to reduce energy consumption while maximizing value added in order to have a lowered consequential cost of sand. Energy consumption in anthropogenic sand flow is proportional to the distance it travels. The further the distance, the higher the consequential cost of sand would be.
In the construction industry, for foundations and load-bearing superstructures, the proportion of sand in the mixture of concrete can go up to 47.5%. Almost half of the Burj Khalifa is made from sand, which was shipped all the way from Australia, 10,121 kilometers away. Along this anthropogenic flow of sand, the sand carriers consumed around 180,000 liters of diesel and produced approximately 5,000 tons of CO2. To offset the carbon, we would have to plant 21,000 trees.
Sand, as an interscalar vehicle to examine the Anthropocene, allows the development of an algorithm to measure material flow, thereby producing more accurate calculations and optimizing the construction environment for lower consequential cost of sand. The building industry can be more tightly regulated on the sustainability and human front once a more holistic indicative value can be expressed. Without careful management, large development projects such as Burj Khalifa would have taken up a huge portion of the country's assigned consequential cost. The consequential cost must be managed. It does not exist to preclude large-scale projects, but ensures that these projects are regulated to reflect on the consequences of using such large quantities of material. The Sentinel Protocol does not just govern the flow of sand, it is overlaid onto sovereign markets, balancing ethical labour conditions and sand usage, as well as its environmental impacts, slowly trickling into the actual physicality of these countries. Material flow should not be controlled by local sovereign policies, as they are not bound by physical boundaries. As such, they should be governed by a universal jurisdiction, a climatic regime. Due to it being consumed, used and traded, sand as a political device has the capacity of conducting terraforming through sheer volume. Assigning a cap of sand consequential cost to each country and implementing a trading system creates a direct top-down relationship, standing with the people who are most effective and marginalized by the industry. The Sentinel Protocol is a geopolitical architecture where we become the Sentinels of Sand.